For my research project, I'll be looking at what the relationship is between ocean fronts and basking shark sightings. I'll be looking at the satellite readings of thermal fronts based on areas where basking sharks were seen, and comparing frontal activity on the days where basking sharks were seen to days where they weren't. The main aim of my research will be looking at where ocean fronts and basking shark sighting. Ocean fronts are areas where there's high primary productivity, and they're found in upwelling zones, coastal and continental shelf regions, and oceanic boundary areas. Typically, basking sharks choose these areas where there's a high abundance of plankton. Because they're filter feeders, it's easier for them to access food where they're on the surface of the water. I aim to investigate what this relationship is, and I believe that it will have an effect. That the ocean fronts will have an effect on the basking shark sightings because of the higher food supply. External bodies. My data will be coming from Marine Discovery, and it's comprised of 7 years worth of data from April 2007 to June 2014. And this data is going to be analysed by Plymouth Marine Lab by Peter Miller. There's two parts to my methodology. First is the practical field and then the post-analysis work. Practical field work was done by Marine Discovery. This was done by the date and time being recorded and the longitude and latitude of the sightings, plus the number of sharks were recorded and the environmental conditions. The post-analysis is the data is manipulated into a format that displays the time, date, longitude and latitude, and number of basking shark sightings. This data was then processed by Plymouth Marine Lab by Peter Miller using an algorithm assessing the sightings in comparison to the distance to the nearest thermal front, the intensity of the front, the stability of the front, and whether or not the sightings were on the stratified or the mixed side of the front. I will then do my own data analysis on assessing the proportion of the sightings on whether or not they were on the same factors, so the stability of the front, the intensity, and whether or not they were on the mixed or stratified side. I'll be analysing the results, creating graphs to compare different factors, for example, intensity against distance from the front, and number of sightings against mixed or stratified side. I'll also be looking to do standard deviation and possibly an ANOVA test. Ethical review. This is mainly for the practical field work. Just basically, the boat shouldn't be closer than 100 meters from the basking sharks, and if they are, then engines should be put in neutral. And the sharks shouldn't be, sudden speed changes should be avoided, not to startle the sharks, because that can lead to flashing their tail, which leads to a great amount of power. Schedule operations. I hopefully plan to have the data from Plymouth Marine Lab so that I can start my own analysis and doing my own research on that and comparing basking shark sightings to ocean fronts. For my contingency plan, I want to look at coral bleaching and investigate at what temperature corals expel their colour, the algae, the zooxanthellae, and if it's possible for them to regain their colour. I'll do this by using 4 different temperatures, 2 at a higher temperature and 2 at a lower temperature. This wouldn't be killing the corals. It just, they do have the ability to survive a coral bleaching, but it could mean that their mortality rate decreases. And from this, I hypothesized that the temperature increase will cause the corals to lose their colour quickly, and will take longer for the corals to lose their colour at lower temperatures, but all of them will be able to regain their colours.